When I was 3 months pregnant, he rushed to file a marriage license with his first love. He signed the divorce papers without a second glance. I just stroked my belly, silent. 10 years later, at my son's middle school graduation, a sudden stir rippled through the auditorium. The school's largest benefactor had arrived. I looked up. My ex-husband, Ethan Hayes, was walking toward the stage in a perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit. The moment he opened his mouth, he pledged a $5 million donation, and the room erupted in a frenzy of applause. The headmaster, his voice trembling with excitement, called the student valedictorian to the stage. My son Leo walked forward. As the two stood side by side, a perfect mirror image, Ethan froze. I raised my camera, a smile as light as the wind playing on my lips. "Sign it, Chloe." Ethan tossed the pen onto the table. It clattered against the rich reddish mahogany of the conference table in the City Hall office, the sound sharp and final. The Patek Philippe on his wrist reflected the cold white fluorescent light from the ceiling. A glance at the watch told me it was 300 p.m. He had a 4 o'clock flight to Aspen to meet Serena Vance. My gaze returned to the divorce agreement. The asset division was clear. A condo on the Upper East Side, a car, and $5 million in cash. I read every word slowly, deliberately. Ethan tapped his fingers impatiently on the table. Tap, tap. It sounded like a countdown from the Grim Reaper. "Chloe, do you really need to read it that closely? My lawyers drafted it. You're getting your pound of flesh." His voice was ice. His phone vibrated, the screen lighting up. The caller ID read, "Serena." He walked over to the window to answer, his voice low, but I could still see the smile he couldn't suppress. "It's almost done. Yeah, I'll head straight to the airport. The tickets are booked. Don't worry. Just be good and wait for me." He hung up and turned back. His brow furrowed when he saw I still hadn't signed. "What are you dragging this out for?" I flipped to the last page of the agreement. Under the section for child custody, it was typed in bold, "No marital children." My hand unconsciously went to my lower abdomen. It was still flat. I couldn't feel anything, but the doctor said the baby was already 3 months along, a life undeniably present. I looked up at Ethan Hayes. He was devastatingly handsome. Deep-set eyes, a strong nose, but now his face was a mask of irritation and disgust, as if I were a speck of dust soiling his designer suit. "Ethan," I began, my voice calm, "we've been married for 5 years. He let out a short, derisive laugh as if I'd told a pathetic joke. "And you want more money? Fine." He pulled a black Amex Centurion card from his wallet and threw it onto the papers. "The pin is your birthday. Take every cent in the account." Happy now I didn't even look at the card. I stared directly into his eyes. "Did you ever love me?" His face contorted in a flash of rage as if he'd stepped on a landmine. "Chloe, don't ask such childish questions. We're adults." "We were husband and wife," I said, where he corrected coldly. "Past tense. And soon, not even that." He snatched the agreement and pen from in front of me, flipped to the last page, and pointed to the signature line. "Sign. Then this is over. You take the money, live your life, and stop obsessing over me." Obsessing. He thought I was obsessing over him. A laugh escaped my lips. I took the pen and let it hover over the paper. "Chloe Park." I wrote my name, slowly, pressing down so hard the paper nearly tore. I pushed the signed document toward him. "There." He glanced at the signature, a visible wave of relief washing over him. He gathered his copy and walked away without a backward glance. At the door, he paused as if remembering something, but didn't turn around. "Just use the card," he said, his tone dripping with a final, condescending act of charity. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone. I slowly stood, walked to the trash can, and dropped the black card inside. I stepped out of City Hall. The sunlight was so bright I had to squint. I shielded my eyes with one hand and wrapped the other protectively around my stomach. Ethan Hayes, we're not over. We've only just begun. Time passed like a silent film. I sold the Upper East Side condo, a place filled with memories of him and Serena. With that money and every penny of my savings, I leased a small industrial loft in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and opened a photo studio. I named it Chrono. The day Leo was born, I was in labor for over 10 hours alone. When the nurse asked where the father was, I told her he was dead. After leaving the hospital, I brought my newborn son back to the small attic apartment above the studio. Life was a grind. I breastfed, changed diapers, and rocked him to sleep, all while editing photos, communicating with clients, and building my business in the slivers of time I could find. So many nights I held a crying Leo, looking out at the city lights, feeling like an island. But I never cried. Tears were the most useless thing in the world. I poured all my strength into Leo and my camera. I captured everything. The first time he rolled over, the first time he babbled his wobbly first steps, the first time he called me mama. My lens was filled with nothing but Leo, and he, in his own way, responded. He was a smart, serious child who never begged for expensive toys. While other kids were running around on the playground, he would sit quietly in my studio helping me organize props. He was the model in my lens and the only light in my life. Chrono Studios slowly gained a reputation. From headshot to personal portfolios and commercial shoots, the name began to mean something in the industry. We moved from the loft in Bushwick to a luxury apartment in Soho. When Leo was 6, he was accepted into a Thornton Preparatory, one of the best private schools in New York. The tuition was a sum I couldn't have imagined years ago, but now I could pay it without flinching. For 10 years, Ethan Hayes became a titan of finance, a name that appeared in the Wall Street Journal, living a life of glamour, and I became Chloe Park, a well-known photographer in my own right. We lived like parallel lines in our separate worlds, never to intersect. Until the invitation to Leo's middle school graduation arrived in my hand. Reading the words, Valedictorian Leo Park, I smiled. For 10 years, I had been sharpening a blade. It was time to draw it. The night before the ceremony, I fussed over Leo's miniature tuxedo and bow tie, adjusting it again and again. Mom, you don't have to be so nervous, Leo said, looking up at me. His dark eyes shone like jewels. He was 10 now, and as his features sharpened, he looked more and more like him. I crouched down, smoothing a non-existent wrinkle on his shirt. Tomorrow is a very important day for you and for me. Leo nodded, not quite understanding. Mom, you're going to take my picture tomorrow, right? Of course. I stroked his hair. Mom's going to capture every moment of my handsome son. And I'll be taking some other pictures, too. Pictures I've waited 10 years to take. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. 10 years hadn't left many marks on my face, but my eyes were harder, deeper. I opened a box I had sealed away long ago. Inside was my wedding photo with Ethan. I was smiling radiantly. He was smiling politely, a familiar distance in his eyes. I placed the photo next to a copy of the divorce agreement from 10 years ago. His hastily scrawled signature was still an eyesore. Everything was ready. The curtain was about to rise on a grand play 10 years in the making. The graduation was held in the school's magnificent auditorium filled with parents in designer suits and dresses. These were the city's elite casually discussing multi-million-dollar deals. I didn't sit with them. With a guest photographer pass around my neck, I stood on the side of the stage in the best possible shooting position. As I focused my telephoto lens on the stage, my heart was perfectly calm. As the headmaster delivered a long, passionate speech, the parents clapped politely, their minds elsewhere. I adjusted my camera settings, scanning the crowd. The front 3 rows were a who's who of New York society. Suddenly, a commotion at the back of the hall. Security guards in black suits cleared a path, and a man walked in surrounded by an entourage. He was tall and well-built, a bespoke Armani suit accentuating his broad shoulders. The moment he appeared, all eyes were on him. Several parents in the front rows immediately stood up, greeting him with fawning smiles. The headmaster on stage spotted him and quickly wrapped up his speech. And now, please give the warmest of welcomes to our school's most distinguished honorary chairman, the CEO of Sterling Hayes Capital, Mr. Ethan Hayes. A spotlight instantly found him. Ethan Hayes. It had been 10 years. He exuded an even more mature, powerful charm. His features were sharper, his presence more intense. He nodded to the crowd with a smile and took a seat in the center of the front row. My lens captured every moment. His entrance, his seating, his casual chat with the person next to him. I documented every second of his triumphant glory. The headmaster announced excitedly, Mr. Hayes, in his deep commitment to education, has graciously pledged $5 million towards the construction of our new school library. The hall exploded with thunderous applause. $5 million. It was pocket change to him, but here it was enough to showcase his status and generosity. Ethan stood and took the microphone, saying a few obligatory words about giving back to the community and investing in the future. His deep, powerful voice held the attention of the parents, especially the mothers.